Alright, we're about to take the 50cc out for its first road test. Alright, voiceover time. So the 50cc, now this is an engine that I've put a lot of love and care into trying to get done and trying to make as good as I could possibly get it. It was also the engine that I bought to experiment on. It was actually a really good engine to come for learning because it was honestly in such poor condition. If I didn't pull it apart and clean it all up, it probably would have died. Now this ride, coming along here, I actually cut short because I realised the chain was way too loose. So I took it home and just tightened it up again and took it straight back out. And I found that straight away it was a much quieter engine than the 66/80cc. To be expected, it did not have quite the amount of torque as the bigger motors. But I will say the power delivery was exceptionally smooth. I'm living in quite a hilly area right now, so the 50cc may not be as suitable for me as the bigger motors. But aside from the differences in torque and top speed, I actually found it to be quite a smooth engine, and it was a lot quieter as well, I noticed. It was difficult for me to chop and change and edit these videos. What you'll be hearing is that constant clap, 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 clap sound, and it took me a long time to figure out what that actually was. It turned out, at one point I thought it was the chin strap hitting the camera, which was ludicrous. It actually turned out to be the chest strap. The clip on the chest strap was clapping against the frame pretty much every time I breathed in and out. Fortunately, this is the last video we're likely to see, or hear, I should say, that sound in. What I did was I just got out the gasket goo, rubber sealant, which comes in the tube, and I just coated the buckle around and left it overnight to set. No more clappy sounds. This road along here was in fact one of the first roads that I took the Mark 1 and 2 bikes up. There were tracks at the top of this road that have now unfortunately since been gated off, so I don't go up there anymore. But this is a long, slow hill, which means it's not immediately steep, but there is quite an incline on it, and it was a really, really good way to test the torque of the 50cc. And of course I'm just running the stock 44 tooth sprocket on these bikes as well, so you know, maybe it would perform better if I had a 48 or 56 tooth sprocket, but that's just not in my budget at the moment. And it does make it easier to compare if you're just using the stock sprocket on all of these builds. Otherwise there's too many variables into what could be the difference. I think that this bike would be perfect if you were in a flat area with not a lot of steep hills. It does do hills fairly well, considering there is a fair amount of extra pedaling required. But I think as well, this is the first time I'd ridden this bike with a motor on it. I was used to the extra gearing that you do get on the mountain bike. Obviously, higher ratios meant that you had a bit more flexibility in the support you can give the engine in pedaling. Coming downhill on this bit as well, this it's nice to be able to just open the engine up and yeah, just see what it could do. So after the first ride went well with no great issues, I do have some chain alignment issues as it's rubbing up against the frame there, and I would have done that when I raised the height of the tensioner, and I forgot to check to see how far it had moved there. So I am having some chain rubbing there, which I had thought was rubbing up against my little cutout there, but seeing it as I do now, see if we see it from the other side, there is, look, that chain's pretty tight. There is a bit of paint missing from the frame as it has been rubbing. So that'll be one of two things. It'll be either the rag joint needs tightening or the tensioner needs tilting towards the frame. Other than that, nothing's visibly fallen off yet. Alright, so I have a little confession. The little 50cc engine only stayed on for one ride because the very next day my replacement 80 came. Now I did a little market research for this one, made sure I got the one with the 40mm bolts on the front, a 40mm intake, and this engine I paid a little extra for and it was in near perfect condition. All I had to do was add a bit of grease in here, but the piston was greased, the cylinder wall was greased, there was no metal filings. I took it for one ride yesterday, and today we're going to take it for a bit of a bigger break-in ride. One of the other things that I did was I lengthened the throttle, the kill switch cable. What I did there is I grabbed one of my spare CDIs and I just extended, I used the plugs there to extend the wires, and then stripped the other end and just crimped the bare wire into that connector. So now it's a lot neater looking at it from this side. Everything's tied in there nice and neat, and I've got nothing sort of hanging down through here.